Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Grid Watchers podcast, where four people and a pensioner talk about Formula One. Of course, this weekend we had the French Grand Prix, which was, well, it was another boring race in the 2018 calendar. But, I mean, Rickson, it's been a pretty good weekend for you. You know, England won 6-1, Hamilton wins. I think the only thing that could be better was if Bournemouth won the Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, that's pushing it a bit, mate. But
if Bournemouth
no,
won the
I
league,
think
it's better.
I think Hamilton just had a pretty normal race going. It's led from the front and obviously he got lucky. You can't deny really with the accident between Bottas and Seb. So I mean, you've got to take what you're given, and sometimes luck equals championships. So, but he is still the GOAT though. Lewis Hamilton is always
what cruising to a win makes him a GOAT.
Of course it does. Yeah.
In fairness, he did get his 75th pole on Saturday.
Exactly.
That's
GOAT.
impressive.
GOAT.
Impressive.
I mean, yeah, it was a pretty impressive win by Hamilton. I mean, he dominated the whole race. Unfortunately, I'm agreeing with Rickson this time, and it was, yeah. I mean, it all kicked off at turn 1 and turn 4 with the. I mean, not really sure what Vettel was doing at turn 1. Just sort of he eased off initially, and then still managed to crash it to the back of Bottas.
Yeah, mate, he's shit.
Please. This is how dull this race was. No one wants to talk about it.
Like, I'm sorry, but you're a however many time world champion. You're battling for a championship, and you're just gonna lock up and and it screwed Bottas more than it screwed himself as well, which just made.
Lewis played it very smart though.
He's such a scumbag.
Vettel was on the softer tyre, and he was going to have Bottas. He was going to have him say if it was going to be a right-hand corner. But I mean, Vettel, with all his experience, should have seen that coming. I mean, Bottas is not going to leave the door open if it's. I don't know. I can't see in his head, but. Chucky, you and I were both feeling the same when we saw the carnage, and then we saw Max carry on, seeing the replay, and oh, he's not involved. Yes.
as he corner cut his way all the way through to second from wherever he started. But you know, it's fair.
You filthy Dutch bastard.
Just fair.
I'm sorry. Where was he supposed to go? Over Vettel?
No, just around the other way rather than taking the shortcut. It's just cheating. He should have been penalised, and it makes no sense.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. I think Red Bull should be scrapped from the championship.
Yeah, fuck Red Bull. Get him out.
Oh. Some shots in this podcast.
Oh, yeah, why not? Let's just throw. Nothing else to talk about, is there?
Well, I mean, it's a typical Hamilton weekend.
Manor back. That would better.
At least we got something to talk about with Manor. Everyone liked Manor.
Sure, get Manor and Karma Jordan back.
Oh God!
All right, that's you know.
Oh dearie me.
Let's calm that one down.
Yeah,
it's my life complete right there.
Well, it was a typical Hamilton weekend in that he had a terrible weekend in Montreal and then bounced back, twice as hard the weekend following. He's
with a brand new engine,
untouchable. But then again, the track was fast entries, slow exits. So really, even if Vettel had managed to pass Vettel hadn't hit Bottas, it would have been all down to pit stops and who could get the undercut, overcut, whatever. And it would have been pretty dull of a race. It's just Vettel had the softer tyre. As one of you said about his experience, you would have thought that as he closed into the apex of turn 1, he'd be in the dirty air and lose downforce. But no, he just tried out braking someone in clean air. That was next to him. That was Bottas, and just completely messed it up. And it's a shame because we saw it towards the end of the year, and we're starting to see it now again. Everyone makes mistakes, of course, but when you're at that level, at the level that he is at, driving in Ferrari, you just don't expect that sort of thing.
I
think someone else.
What Verstappen said in the press conference afterwards?
Oh, that was fab. That was more of a dig at the media, though.
Yeah, no, it was.
It was purely at the media.
It was
still amazing. I heard that and just went yes.
It was so deadpan, and Hamilton was just weak, and Kimi sat there emotionless. The whole thing. I thought it was rather funny, and so did everyone else. And Kimi just sat there dead. Just I don't know what he was thinking about. Just completely dead inside. Like,
I think that's just Kimi Räikkönen generally. In fairness, it's just Persona, just fairly dead inside.
Bless him.
He did look like he was just a robot, just sort of staring into space.
Yeah.
And just waiting for someone to say, turn him back on again.
Yeah. But it was, I think Crofty tweeted saying, "Oh, good race, a lot of overtaking," but it wasn't because people were racing. It was because you've got the two tiers of F1 and two cars from the top tier of F1 were at the back,
Yep.
and they just literally drove past everyone. And the only reason
Yeah.
Bottas couldn't is because he's
shafted.
well, a third of his diffuser was trashed because of the tire ripped off and rammed into it. So it really wasn't an interesting race. Ricciardo lost most of his front wing just through debris, I think it was, because he lost it. And Sauer, look at that, the top three cars were in the top three places, and then down to the top six. It's just, yeah, typical of this season and typical of what we expected at the circuit, which is obviously a shame, but again, we all saw it coming. The biggest talking point of the weekend was the traffic. It seemed to be through all the media.
It did. Trying to get out, what were they, midnight and still trying to get out the track?
Yeah, 19 hours.
Fake Charlie Whiting spent 9 hours in his car.
Oh, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Because what was it, like a few months ago, we were talking about going to a Grand Prix together. I think
We
France
said
is
about going to France.
Yeah,
France
we
is
did,
off the table, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. What was the actual issue? Is it one road in, one road out?
Well, it's just rural roads.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll make something
stop
out of it.
going there to start with, wasn't it? Because of the rural roads.
And Ricciardo's gone. Oh, he's done his Hamilton bit.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, Rix is gone now. Yeah, that was the point at the
Well,
start. Before we started recording, he did say he was going to do his bit and then leave. So, yeah, sorry, Ken, you were saying about the roads.
Yes, it's just B roads, leading up to the circuit. But apparently, like, there were, or it was very poorly, or there were just none. Like, you know, the guys who organize traffic, like, right, you can go now for 2 minutes. You stop, then that direction can go. There were like none of them, or badly
Right.
trained, and they had to go pick up the drivers and other important people with scooters and bikes. And the commentator for the Dutch TV, so the race was 4:10 in the Netherlands. So he got there at 8 in the morning. So that's 8 hours before the race starts. He was there just so we would get there on time.
Wow.
That's like saying, you know, school starts at 8. I'm going to show up at 1, so I'm not in traffic.
Oh.
It's madness, isn't it? I can imagine there were actually a couple of people that were late and they had to sort of draft in some commentators for different places. Because if that's the case, you shouldn't expect that, really, should you?
Yeah, some people were in. I mean, obviously, if you care about like F2 and F3 and are like, you know, you arrive early and leave like one of the last, then, you know, you're like, you got 8 hours worth of entertainment, and maybe then 2 to 3 hours in the car isn't that bad if it's gonna be delayed. But some people got in 4 hours to go there, 4 hours to get back, and saw 75 minutes of free practice. I mean, it's not really time efficient, is it?
No. I mean,
I don't I don't know how the other Grand Prix. I don't know what Silverstone's like, for example. Belgium was
better organised.
I've been to Belgium, so to Francorchamps, and they got a bit of the same issue, like B roads, like windy roads and everything. And the motorway leading up there is fine, and then the moment you turn off and go to the car parks, it wasn't too bad. I mean, we got stuck for like 45 minutes, and then, you know, very slow traffic, but only took us like an hour and a half extra.
Yeah.
And then to go away, it was acceptable. But, you know, we knew in advance. But like France, you're like, all right, it's new. Let's see if they change something. And you get welcomed by a 4-hour wait in a steaming hot car at like 25, 26 degrees.
They should have planned better for that, though, surely. They knew the race was coming. They knew there'd be plenty of people going. And I'm pretty sure that's why they stopped going to that circuit to start with, is because of the issues of it being very raw. So they brought it back. So surely they then had to plan for that. They should learn their lesson next year, surely. Because no one's going to go. No one's going to want to stay there.
There was one plus point, though. Like, say, the moment you got there, you didn't have to buy, like, any alcoholic beverages, because just 2 looks at the track, like, all the blue lines, and you're drunk.
And you're off your face. It's the sort of thing that gets people hypnotised into a trance. It was madness.
Yeah,
I think that was also responsible for, like, not turn 1. What was it? Turn 4, where like 5 cars went to the left.
No one knew where they were going.
No one knew where they were going. It was like
rallycross. I think someone.
Yeah.
Everyone's going out doing the Joker lap.
Why not put up a plastic barrier? Even though they're doing go-karting, just put up a plastic barrier so you know where to turn. It doesn't need to be safe and protected because it's just showing you where to go. Because there was about 6 different routes you could go when you could just go dead straight.
I said this last week on the podcast before, I can't remember, but it was the fact that because all the lines are the same everywhere, you just lose yourself and you haven't got a clue where you're going.
Yeah.
And you could see that even the best drivers, so-called the best drivers in the world, completely mucked it up. But
Yeah, I think Alonso did it once, didn't he? I think Alonso just drove in a different part of the track.
Alonso, Kimi, a few other people did as well. But it was it was good racing there. Well, not good racing, but it was racing there in the 80s. Then it was repair in the 90s, and then Bernie brought it back specifically as a test track. And of course, when it is a test track, you don't need to build big infrastructure and roads and stuff like that, do you? Because it's just only there for models.
No fans are turning up to a test session.
And then all of a sudden, for the last 5 years, the Blancpain and GT and the smaller categories have been going there in single-seater racing, and now all of a sudden they were just like, yeah, F1. And they interviewed Chase Carey, and he was like, oh yeah, it's great to be popular, and hope we get bigger crowds the next couple of days. No, people are sitting in their cars for 9 hours to come and see it, and they're not even getting in. Oh, it's just great, isn't it? No, he just wasn't getting it at all. So eventually, the couple of days afterwards, they were like, oh yeah, we'll sort it for next year. And it's like, well, that's too little, too late, really.
You should have planned it for this year because it's going to put people off.
Oh yeah. Not only that, but the race itself, all the French drivers except for Grosjean were out. Immediately.
To talk about the news regarding McLaren's bid for Ricciardo, and also the news that Leclerc is being drafted in at Ferrari because rumours are Kimi's last season.
Thank God. I think.
Yeah.
We'll move on from the Ricciardo to McLaren thing because not a chance. So we can just put that to rest. Not a chance of you watching what happened today and going, do you know what? That seems like a car I really need to be in. No amount of money is going to want to put you in the middle of the grid when you're at the front.
It was triple pay though, wasn't it? That's what I heard.
Who cares?
That's the thing, yeah.
The reason he's there is to win a world championship. He will not win a world championship at McLaren until probably 2021. That's when McLaren will get good again.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's either Red Bull where he stays, Ferrari or Mercedes. Those are his only options.
Yeah.
And Ricciardo knows that. All he's waiting for now is Lewis Hamilton to sign his contract, and that'll decide how long Hamilton stays in the sport, and then of course that'll decide Ricciardo's future, how long he wants to stay with Red Bull. Because at the moment Ferrari won't want Ricciardo because Vettel won't want Ricciardo, and Leclerc he's just doing so well. But I think the more logical route, it's unlikely that Leclerc will go to Ferrari next season because they take on a young driver. He'll more than likely go to Haas at the expense of Romain Grosjean, who's still yet to score a point.
Grosjean is shite.
Has he not scored? Oh, really? Not? Has he
He's not scored a single point yet. Magnussen's got like 40.
He was 6th place.
Yeah.
I didn't realise Grosjean had 0 points. I did not
Grosjean
realise.
has scored absolutely nothing.
Wow.
Ocon's interview at the end of the race, he said, you know what, I'd have been out anyway if Gasly hadn't hit me because my car was already broken and riding on the floor after Grosjean hit him in a straight line going down to turn 1, and then had the audacity to say on the radio during the race after penalty saying, oh, it's a fucking joke. What?
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Oh, interesting.
But Leclerc Ferrari, I think he has definitely shown that he could be a future world champion because he's put that Sauber in places it shouldn't be. He qualified. What did he qualify? 7th?
8th.
Ocon said, yeah.
I mean, to qualify 8th in that Sauber.
He was directly behind Kimi.
Yeah, is.
Man.
Yeah, that's a bloody good job.
Yeah.
And I think he's well earned it. And in fairness, I think give him a season at Ferrari when he moves. I reckon that he will match Vettel and give him a good run for his money.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Yeah, 100%. But he will go to Ferrari.
You think what next season?
I think Haas next season and maybe Ferrari.
Yeah, because that's just not what they as good as it would be, and as good as we all know that give him Haas and he would be up there fighting really well, even with Russia. That's just not what Ferrari do, and it wouldn't be really brave to do that to him. He would need a season at least in Haas, in my opinion. and then to go on, because he had not a rough time at the start of the year, but he was sort of finding his feet. He's on this high now. He needs to go through the real lows, and then he's more of a complete driver, because if you could just go high like Verstappen did, all of a sudden there's this low and everyone's, oh my god, he's terrible. Verstappen's had a really hard time.
He has, and in fairness, he's pulled it back out, so I think he's done really well the past couple of races.
Yeah, and to come back out and then say, well, I can still drive, rather than just going, oh, thanks for the congratulations, just go, see, you shove your words up your ass. I think that's really good of him to have done that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
He deserves.
I think because of the lows, he's maturing and becoming more of a good driver.
Massively. That's why Hamilton, he threw his toys out the pram in like seasons like 2011 and towards the end of 2010, because he'd just been on this wave of, and the start of 2009 even, he'd be on this wave of just peak performance, and then all of a sudden the car was shit, and he was all giving it mouth. I think at one point when they were in stewards in Monaco in 2011, he was like, oh, I think they just pick on me because I'm black, and it's like, oh, you know what I mean? And now he's a far better driver. Whenever he has an off day, he goes, you know what? Yeah, we'll come back stronger, because he's been through that period. They all need it. They all need it.
Yeah, no, it is very true. Leclerc will have that time at some point where it's not going so well.
Yeah, I think. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. The future looks good for Leclerc especially, and we'll wait and see what. Yeah, like you said, I think agree with you. Ricciardo's not going to be moving anywhere. Also, just remembered the Red Bull confirming Honda for their engine supplier next year.
Good move.
Yeah, Honda have actually been alright this season. Maybe not the fastest engine on the grid, but more reliable than Renault.
Yeah, and I think what swung them for it was the last race where they both installed upgrades. They were waiting for that race in Canada, and I think it was Gasly, because Hartley didn't have Hartley was out, wasn't it? Gasly overtook Ocon and one or two of the Renaults and a Haas on the back straight in Canada.
Of course, yes.
Obviously with DRS, and that was enough for Christian Horner to say, you know what, I'll sign here. Because now Honda are taking the direction that they were meant to do in 2014, but McLaren forced them in a different direction in 2015 and 2016. So since 2017, Honda have gone with the direction they originally wanted to go, and the performance they've made is incredible, whereas Renault haven't moved at all. Sainz lost, God, must have been 10 points, was it, because he was P6 all race, and then like P9 at the end of it, because of his Renault engine going, and that's the works team. So there's no future in Renault. Cyril Abiteboul is shite.
The thing is, switching from Renault to Honda is Renault will tell Red Bull, this is the engine we give you, whether you like it or not, whereas Honda will go, how can we make it better? What can we do? Have you got any advice? That sort of thing.
It's huge.
There will be a much closer relationship between Red Bull and Honda than there ever was between Red Bull and Renault.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why they've gone for it, because Renault have been screwing Red Bull over for a good few seasons, basically just telling them, no, this is what we give you.
Yeah. 100%.
So it's madness, but I'm looking forward to seeing how Red Bull do with that Honda next season. Also, it might be a different livery, because they won't need to use the yellow of the Renault badge. So it might be.
Because Honda are running red at the moment, aren't they? So.
Honda seems to be running a sort of red feel.
Yeah.
So it might be a very different looking Red Bull next season, which I thought
actual Red Bull, maybe partly red.
It might be a proper Red Bull. So that would be really interesting to see what they sort of come up with for that one, as they've now got a little bit more free reign and something different to work with.
Yeah. I hope it works out well for Honda.
Yeah. No one.
Because everyone got like, ooh, Honda,
Honda, yeah.
But I mean, McLaren has proven, unfortunately, that it wasn't due to their engine that they were struggling.
The best chassis.
I think they just, instead of ploughing money into the people that are already there, why don't you just hire some cleverer ones?
Well,
the people that are there seem to be shit.
Giving them the Freddos isn't plowing money into them, but I know.
Yeah, there's a lot of investors plowing money in and they're not getting anywhere. That shows you something's wrong.
They're constantly looking within, and that's what Honda were sort of doing wrong before. They start nicking people from else, like Ferrari did with Jock Clear from Mercedes, and all of a sudden stuff starts coming right. As a doing and success before. And it's a shame that, and it's really because the McLaren car, it looks really intricate, looks really interesting, but it's just like, how can it be so far back and just not performing. And it's
I don't know. In fairness, stealing people off, other people doesn't always work. Paddy Lowe.
Oh yeah. Oh wow, what a letdown that was. They're all like, "Oh yes, Williams back, boys, Williams back," and it's like,
The biggest anticlimax in the history of
yeah.
F1 transfers.
I mean, just look at the 2012 McLaren season where they had the fastest car on the grid by a long, long way.
Yeah, at the end of that season, they're the fastest car on the grid.
And they still lost it. And like the McLaren cars throughout those years, they were very hit and
That
miss.
was Mercedes engine reliability, wasn't it?
A lot of gearboxes, tire worries. Like they didn't fix on properly. But then you got throughout those years, you've got cars like the 2010 car with the F duct. Oh, that's fantastic. 2011 car with those wacky side pods, second in the championship. Good. 2012, all right. Then 2013, no, that's not very good. 2009 wasn't very good up until the midpoint of the season, and everyone was like, right, he's going to go mad, and he just literally has just breathed on Pat Simmons' 2017 Williams, and it's like, oh,
Yes.
they unveiled it, and everyone was like, are they for real? Is this the car?
Yeah.
Is this the actual car? And they were like, oh yeah, we've got a lot of issues, because apparently the issue is that in a straight line they seem to be okay. They've added downforce. Of course, in a wind tunnel, you kind of you do most of your testing in a straight line, but it's when they turn the corners, the diffuser's being stalled. So on corner entry, obviously, when you got angle on the tires, and as the car's going through the diffuser's stalling, and then on the exit, terrible as well. So as you saw, I think Sorokin spun in Spain at turn 9, under just as the safety car came out. Can you imagine having the diffuser stall on you, or the corner entry and exit? It must be awful.
Yeah. That's madness. It's why they're so slow in their corner entry, and everyone just catches them in there. You could dive one up the inside of a Williams because there's no way they're going to beat you on corner entry.
Yeah, and it's like their main strength was straight line speed, and now they've added downforce, so they're slow on the straights, but all the downforce drops off mid corner.
Yeah.
So it's just
it's incredible. Isn't it? Williams are shocking.
It's just it's gotta hurt. Like
Williams in 2014 looked like they could actually mount something really good because they were doing really well on it. They were doing a force injury of last season where they had a low budget and just producing a really solid car.
Yeah, I mean,
and then
yes,
past couple of years,
like Stroll. Yes, you can argue like, oh, his tire blew up. It's not his fault. But have you seen the flat spots that were on there? Any driver would notice that. And say like, we're running
steering wheel.
Yeah, you would say like, guys, we're running 17th. Do you mind me pitting for new tires before it blows? But no, he's like,
yeah.
It's time to ditch Stroll. I would rather go bankrupt than to keep Stroll and his daddy's money in and keep losing potential sponsor money. Because good luck finding a sponsor next season if you're going to carry on like that.
Yeah, because Martini are going, aren't they? Martini are going.
Yeah, Martini are going, so they'll have to find a new title sponsor, which will be difficult.
I think
that's what Man has struggled to do with.
Yeah, I mean that's what McLaren are still struggling to do. They still haven't got a proper title sponsor.
If you think of title sponsors for F1 cars, you can't think of the McLaren one.
No, it just sucks, and that's partly due to the way F1 is at the moment, which is hoping to change. But the Williams situation, Sorokin is kind of getting shafted as well, and Will Buxton did an interview, I think it was pre-race, it was on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I remember this,
Thing, and he was like, so do you think possibly you might have some of a chance here, but here, or maybe you could look up from Canada? And Sorokin just went
Sorokin is getting shafted, absolutely shafted. It's ridiculous. I have not seen Sorokin the entire season because this Williams just breaks on him.
Yeah,
it is nothing to do with Sorokin's ability to drive. It's his ability to just drive just a tractor.
Yeah.
And try not to let it break down. It is a tractor. In F1 terms, it's a tractor.
It is a heap of shit.
What showed was all Kubica's tests, that he's done. He's been doing tests now for like over a year with different F1 teams, and everyone's like, wow, he's doing really well. Wow, look at this, he's doing really well. And wow, and go back into F1, and then he did that practice session in Spain and spun the car. And everyone was like, oh my God, what's going on here? And he hadn't pulled in any tests, just in a practice session now. So, having already got the test roll, and he spins the car in like the last sector. And he was like, wow, that was embarrassing. when he came back in. So I mean that shows it for him to come in and say, not for him to go all team cozy and be like, oh, that was a really great. That was a bit difficult, but we learned something. For him to come in and go that.
Yeah, that's what did he test for? The 2014 Renault? Am I right?
2012 Renaults he's done.
Yeah.
14 Renaults.
And he's probably thinking, I wish I was back in one of them.
Yeah, he's done a lot of Williams testing as well. They're older, but you don't see him that much for the last couple of races. I think he's lost a bit of faith. As is everyone else, and it's tough because you want to see them succeed, especially the way things are these days. Claire Williams as a team manager, you want her to sort of.
You always want to see Claire Williams do well because she's her heart is in the sport so much.
Yeah, just for not to see all the hard work Frank Williams put in it vanish.
Oh, God, yeah, that's tough as well.
Frank Williams is the biggest legend in F1.
If they are keeping Stroll next season, then I don't know if they're gonna put him aside or alongside a Sorokin or whatever. But if Stroll is still in Williams, or still has a Williams seat, and they need a new sponsor instead of Martini, I think I got one that's quite fitting.
Oh yeah.
Simply sausages. Because it's an incredible sponsor, and B, it describes your drivers.
It does. Describes your drivers.
The trouble is with Williams, they've lost all their places in the constructors' championships. They're not getting constructors' money, and Lawrence Stroll's dad's putting in way over 50 million worth of, rumored to be 80 worth of money. He also paid for all of Stroll's tests before he got into the Williams team.
Ridiculous, isn't
and
it?
it's
Absolutely ridiculous.
So they can't. Stroll is giving them no direction, no performance. Even on a good day, bar I think it was Baku and Monza, so 2 races out of what has he done, 25 now, 28 out of 2 races. He's not really giving them any team direction. Whenever you speak to him, it's just all doom and gloom, and it's hard not to be, obviously, but leading the team, which he should be, but they can't get rid of him because then they wouldn't have enough money to race. So it's tough on him because he's so young, and then someone could throw in then that, well, who's leading McLaren then? Because they're not. So it's tough when you try and balance Stroll's performance against teammate and against some other drivers. But I feel it's a lot on his shoulders for someone who's had a rough start to the sport as it is. But they can't lose him because they can't afford to lose him.
No, that team needs a leader and it hasn't got one.
No, exactly.
It needs one. In fairness, it doesn't need Kubica. If you stick Kubica in the car, it'll
be fine.
He doesn't want to drive it though.
It will be better.
Yeah,
he has got an arm that doesn't function as well as everyone else's, and he's still faster than every Williams driver currently.
But
that is either how good Kubica is or how bad.
But I also can't think that. I mean, like Massa. Can you? I'm so glad for him that he retired last season.
Yes.
And
can you
imagine
he'd have retired already. He'd have retired.
Yeah.
But that's shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, he said so himself. He said, "I'm glad I'm not."
Yeah. Why would you want to? No one would want to drive that car.
The thing is, I'll use your example from earlier on. I think it was Corsi that said, Kubica wouldn't make the car a serious points finisher and a points finisher every race. However, it would give the team direction. It would give the team some background experience. And, for example, Stroll on those final laps wouldn't say to the team, "Oh, I've got vibrations," and then let the tire blow up, and the team wouldn't let the tire blow up. Kubica would say, "My tire's going to blow up. I'm coming into the pits."
Yeah.
Rather than just risking it, for nothing? They weren't even in the points. What's the point?
Yeah.
Damage your front wing,
What's
go right
the
off
point?
the track.
What's the point in damaging your car? Just check yourself in the pits. Try to set the fastest lap you can and see what it can do.
But Kubica wouldn't even let it. I would have liked to think that let it get to that point. He'd have gone, "This strategy's stupid. I'm coming in."
He wouldn't have let it get to the vibrations at all in any way, shape, or form. I don't think.
No.
But the thing is Kubica gives you something which Stroll and Sorokin can't, and that's immediate, very detailed feedback of the car.
Yeah.
And they will give you that feedback that is crucial. And Stroll and Sorokin don't have that knowledge to then be able to do that, which is why the car's performing so badly, because they got enough. The drivers are telling them probably absolutely bugger all in terms of detail.
Because they can't, because they haven't got any background experience. That's the thing.
Exactly.
I mean, you could say that again. They had Barrichello and for ages in the team, and he doesn't completely heavily rely on experience. But when they go through a tough period, having someone that can say, "Oh, back when I drove a car a couple of years ago, we tried this, and this helped with this problem," You know, it can be just simple situations like that rather than engineers sitting there looking at a computer scratching their heads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's tough on those guys, of course, because they're so inexperienced.
It is tough, but every team needs a leader. It needs some experience in there. You can't have 2 young guys and then go, yeah, but we'll perform exactly as we would if we had 2 experienced guys. It doesn't work like that. F1 doesn't work like that.
No, and it's really looking bleak.
It is.
To be honest.
It's looking bleak for Williams, but
Sucks.
as long as they stay in the sport when standardised parts, much cheaper engines, everything like that, then I think they'll be absolutely fine. Everyone's waiting for that because there's going to be more teams in the sport, 100%, because it will be just more advertising for teams because it won't cost them much.
Yeah. Liberty are trying to change, but up until I think it's the end of 2020 is Bernie's Concord Agreement, which
it's the Concord Agreement. So that's why everything's
so they can't do anything as much.
If they could change it for next season, every F1 team would be like, okay, we need some planning, but yeah. They're really stuck with it. So Bernie doesn't get things wrong. So he, as in like, will be water. No one can break that, no matter how much money you throw at it. So they're just gonna have, as I said, they're just gonna have to wait it out. So once that happens, hopefully we won't lose teams before then. But it is looking tough. But then you get someone like Vasseur come into Sauber, who will look literally. Everyone was like, do you know what? They've had it. They've absolutely had it. And he comes in, and within 8 races or so, because Alfa Romeo only put money in December. Yeah,
within 8 races or so,
very late for Alfa Romeo.
It's scoring points, and it's like I think Chris Johnson F1 put a tweet out saying that Marcus Ericsson, Leclerc has scored as many points as Marcus Ericsson has throughout his whole career.
Yeah, in 3 seasons of F1, Leclerc scored more points in 8 races.
And that to me, again, shows his talent, but again shows Vasseur's amazing talent.
Sauber actually have a decent midfield car rather than a back runner.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. This is sad for fans of Nico Hülkenberg, and I feel quite strongly for Nico because he went to Renault because Vasseur went to Renault, and Nico was like, right, I know what Vasseur can do, and then a Beat Bull ousted Vasseur because the Beat Bull wanted control, and Hülkenberg was like, no, I didn't sign, no. So then Mercedes came calling for Hülkenberg, and Hülkenberg, Beat Bull wouldn't let Hülkenberg go. He wouldn't let him go. So then Vasseur's got to Sauber, and now Sauber are doing that. Like 1 place behind Hülkenberg in Paul Ricard. So Hülkenberg's just, I've never known anyone with such worse luck.
Hülkenberg has so much more, but he's never had that chance to get into a team that can get podiums.
Yeah, but he tried. He saw Vasseur and was like, right, Renault works.
Yeah. He put himself in the right place. He's just
and
been
Vasseur just buggers off and goes somewhere else. It's like, oh no, mate. And then Leclerc's 1 place behind him on Sunday. And it's just Renault Works team. Sauber is 1 place behind the Renault Works team on Sunday after the years of the years of Carlton Bourne driving it into the ground. Not entirely her fault, but it's just so tough. But as they say, F1 is a bitch.
If we talk about F1 as a bitch, let's talk about Fernando Fortnite. Goes to Le Mans.
I was going to say, let's move on to Le Mans.
Goes to Le Mans in the fastest car, admittedly. Wins Le Mans comfortably as being the fastest average driver over the whole weekend. It is his first WEC race.
First crack, yeah.
No,
no,
second. See,
Spa.
this is the point that me and Ashley are talking about. Classic F1 person just watching Le Mans only.
I thought he was fastest. No, I saw. No, he was.
No, I didn't say that. No, you missed my point here. It's his second World Endurance race. He did the 6 hour of Spa.
It was his first. Oh, did he? Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, I didn't actually know that.
Sorry.
No, fair enough.
Carry on.
And then so wins Le Mans in the fastest car. On an absolute high, and then goes back to F1, sits in the car, and then goes out in Q1.
Oh, mate, that's tragic. And Will Buxton, with absolutely no fear at all, talks to him after the race and goes, "You know what? Winning Le Mans last week and plumb last today. How do you feel?" And I was like, "Oh, mate, mate."
I'm surprised Alonso didn't just ram his hat down his throat.
But he was like, "I'd rather be."
Away.
Then he said, "I'd rather be here finishing last than watching it on TV." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
You spun in the race.
In fairness, I can understand that because interviews are very easy to just go, "Oh yeah, well, it's quite easy." Sat in the car just driving around. So he's probably just having a dig at the interviewer going, "Well, yeah, but I'm driving the car and I'm enjoying it." And George stood here interviewing me going, oh yeah, we should be doing better than that. How does it feel?
Yeah, no, but that is crushing disappointment for Alonso to come back into that and just have such a lack of competitivity compared to the other teams.
Yep.
Oh, but it was just.
I
It was
expect them
great
to
to
do so
watch.
much better.
It is. That's the thing. It was great to watch it, and everyone kind of knew they had a proper issue. He said on Friday press conference that there were 10 teams fighting for it. No, mate, you were in a separate division, LMP1H. You were fighting your teammates and no one else. But then, nevertheless, for Toyota to actually finish Le Mans in a good position is wow. That's amazing. But how crushing must that be? And then, of course, he looks at his bank balance and goes,
Yeah.
not such a bad weekend.
Was it
Not so a couple of weeks.
was it four LMP1 cars finished? Was it six? And was it in Le Mans?
Yeah, it wasn't very many.
It was
And then,
both
of course,
rebellions.
John Irving got disqualified out of P2. Was it P2 or was that P1? I can't remember. I think
But, I
no,
mean,
yeah, there wasn't many that finished.
yeah, I mean, Le Mans was good. And then that again, I know it's not related to. I know it's still racing, but yeah, the LMP1 Toyota was just another breed of car. I know there was so many restrictions on the other LMP1 cars because it went hybrid, so it was an easy win for Honda. Sorry, easy win for Toyota.
But
Yeah,
yeah, it was just between each other. It was, yeah.
Yeah,
between-
essentially.
To
Yeah.
be fair, when it's Le Mans, I don't really watch it for LMP1. It's for the
No, the
GT
GTs, yeah.
classes.
Oh, the
GTs are
GT
brilliant.
racing is
Ford
fantastic.
Porsche battle was brilliant.
And then the BMW, the M6, all the memes that came afterwards with the M6 just being like 5 or 6
Massive.
times the size. Yeah, that
It was there
fantastic.
for a long time, and then it sort of, when it got into night, it did have an issue, didn't it? It had to pull into the pits.
Yeah, they sandbagged in quali, took their sandbags out after quali, and were really fast in the race. And of course, the experience of the other teams, Ford and Porsche, just came through during the night racing. BMW, their development with that car, same as with Aston with the new Vantage. They just fell away eventually, but it was really good because it was they'd slipstream down the straight to the first chicane, then at the second chicane they'd dive up the other guard, and then they'd go all the way down to Indianapolis side by side, and it was mad.
Yeah, the GT battle was very, very entertaining.
Cracking.
Yeah, hopefully.
It was very spicy.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
indeed.
That's well put. Yeah.
Something we kind of missed this week.
We've got Dick of the Day and Driver of the Day. So we'll start with Driver of the Day. And you can't vote for Vettel because somehow he won Driver of the Day.
I don't know who voted for Vettel.
Sorry.
Someone must have botted that,
I
surely.
don't know.
Deluded
Yeah.
tifosi fan.
So we'll do Driver of the Day. We'll start with Ashley.
I'd like to go with Leclerc because to have that circuit, which is incredibly downforce dependent with medium speed corners everywhere, and his youth and inexperience, I say, fought off Romain Grosjean. Could have easily taken him out. He didn't run over Debris at the start. Pick his way with that. Obviously that, but to not drop it, being so young, I think it says something. Because as the rumors build, he's going to be going to Ferrari. There's quite easy to bottle. Vettel bottled. Leclerc didn't, and Leclerc's in a worse car in dirty air. And even when Leclerc was interviewed after the race, he said, I think we could have got P9 because I made a mistake and just ran wide by half a car length, and Hülkenberg slipped up the inside, and that was it. And he was like kicking himself that he'd not scored an extra point being in a Sauber. It's like, mate, did you watch F1 last year? It's absolutely phenomenal, and he's so humble about it all. You know what I mean? It's I think he's I'm not big Leclerc fanboy coming in, but how he's doing that in comparison to Ericsson is, you just can't. There is no comparison, in my opinion.
Yeah, good choice. And your Dick of the Day?
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
It doesn't have to be a driver. It can be anybody or anything.
Just your Dick of the Day for F1.
For F1,
I know who mine is.
probably Chase Carey for his comments on the traffic and people, because like fake Charlie Ryan bought weekend tickets and then didn't go for 2 days for Saturday and Sunday because it wasn't worth sitting in the car for that long for him to go, oh yeah, it's great to be popular. No, it's not what people want to hear. You're not doing anything. If he'd said, look, I understand we've got traffic problems, we weren't expecting people, we're really going to try and work on it now, but for next year we'll put traffic infrastructure in. But there's talk of like they weren't allowed to cycle in either. They were making people walk for a kilometre on cleats. They weren't allowed to cycle down the road.
Amazing.
Don't
want to get an advantage.
Yeah, that was just such a stupid comment for such a big businessman to just not acknowledge any mistake and be like, oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's great for you because you come in by helicopter.
Yeah, it's very true.
So he was my dick of the day.
Fantastic. Right, Causa?
My drive of the day is everyone that left for the circuit early to miss all the traffic. Good initiative. All the drivers on the grid were pretty low, in fairness. No one really deserves the drive of the day. I don't know. Vettel only won it because, I don't know, Germany's a big country. Fuck knows why Vettel won it, but whatever. And my dick of the day is every French driver on the grid for crashing into each other. Nice home race, everyone.
Yeah. Wow, yeah, fair enough.
Good
Yeah.
show. This is very good. Ken?
I agree with everything Ash said about Leclerc, but I'm gonna say Kimi for driver of the day
Okay.
because he really found his pace. He was just flying past
Yeah,
Vettel.
solid.
Yeah, got his finger out. It's nice to see. How about you, Chuke?
Yeah, definitely.
And dick of the day
Oh, you
is
haven't finished.
Vettel.
Yeah, we need to do Ken's dick.
It's gotta be. Yeah, I mean,
It's Vettel. Sorry, you can't make. I mean, some people on Twitter really are missing some brain cells. They go like, "Oh, he only crashed once and don't bitch on him and this and that." Well, I'm sorry, you did it to Max. You're gonna get it back, Italian assholes.
So wait, so Vettel is your dick of the day because of Twitter?
No.
Yeah, come on.
Because of the move that he did. Because
Yeah, no.
when Max they were like, because he hasn't proven anything yet, so he doesn't. Vettel has proven that he can drive. He just lost all connection to his brains on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, he came out. Look, I had too good a start, and I got boxed in by the Mercedes. I lost my downforce. I locked up, and I crashed into them. He came out and said that. If he'd said, I shouldn't have been boxed in, he came out like a man, which is fair enough. But when you've that many race wins, that many, it's not your first race of the year.
True.
It's just such a shame that he did that.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
Come
it's
on,
just-
Ollie, have you got anything to add?
Yes.
My driver of the day is Kevin Magnussen.
I like it. Yeah.
Good
I
haul
like
of
it.
points. Proves how bad Grosjean is.
solid.
Yeah, Grosjean is. Yeah.
And my dick of the day, it's two things. The first being Liberty Media going back to Paul Ricard when Manticore was a far better track.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
And secondly,
Solid track.
whoever designed the trophy.
Yes, I knew it. You were gonna say it.
You were gonna say
Why is
that?
it a gorilla holding? I don't understand. There's not even
I was-
gorillas in France.
I was like, yeah, I was actually thinking like, what the fuck is the connection?
No
Yeah.
idea. Anybody know?
No correlation meme.
Anyone watching, let us know if you know why it's a gorilla. I've got no idea.
It was part of an art exhibition. That's why, there was like a prancing horse painted in blue put outside Mercedes garage, which was kind of funny. And there was a big gorilla put there as well, and like bits dotted around the track. It was part of an exhibition, but to put it on the trophies as well, it just seems a bit odd. A big pomp and circumstance about it being French's first Grand Prix in 10 years, and then they use a gorilla. I think you'd put something really
Have you
special.
seen the design for
there.
next year for the trophy?
No.
It got leaked. I'm gonna drop it in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. Should be.
But yeah, I'm not sure why.
Nice big get.
So those who
Oh,
Ken just put a baguette in the chat.
Oh my god. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna rewind like 2 months back in memes. Can you imagine Grosjean with his stupid French accent?
So glad for getting.
Oh fucking hell! Wait, it's so bad I'm laughing.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, no, that's fair.
Just give me a minute. Give me a minute. Sorry.
Oh, Jesus.
Gone.
What
Ken's gone.
what animals are French? Like you, right? Unless you put a frog on there.
Snails.
That's a bit racist.
Nah, it's not racist. It's true.
Frog, snail,
I mean, what other animals are French? I don't know.
a white flag for the surrender in the war.
Oh, dear.
I mean, the circuit is Paul Ricard. Ricard is an alcoholic beverage. It's named after the guy
Yeah.
who made the Ricard. they could have gone in that direction, like make it a nice bottle or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They couldn't have alcohol
I love what you
sponsors
did
on the
there, Ken.
cars. That's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the most hilarious thing. It's named after a guy that made a drink famous, but none of the teams could have alcohol sponsors.
Oh
It's
yeah.
amazing, isn't it?
Just like, the logic. The logic. I don't know what they could do, but something traditionally French, or even just a normal trophy design.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, the first person who's looking in trophy cabinet is going to go, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna put it like Red Bull is gonna put it at the front.
Tuck it behind like 4 or 5 other. One of the
Like,
big
I'm
China
sorry,
ones,
Max. We're glad you got us a trophy, but we're not putting it on display.
This is going at the back of the cabinet.
Yeah, I don't blame
Ends
them.
up in the bin.
Oh,
Um,
But it wasn't just a trophy. Like also the massive gorillas alongside track. It was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
weird.
it
It's,
was
it's like what?
silly.
Right, I think I
we'll
can
move
pose
on from
myself.
that was a misjudgment of trophy design. You get some beautiful trophies, and then they come up with
Yeah.
The whole weekend was a judgment, I guess. in many respects, all weekend was just poorly judged.
Yes. It
I
was.
think I think I compose myself enough to tell the really bad joke.
All right, here we go.
Come on, then.
It's really bad. It's really bad. It's
No,
like
no,
two.
come on. This is going to make it in. So you better
Welcome
speak
to
up.
Ken's corner.
Can you imagine like Grosjean with his stupid French baguette going? I'm sorry. Here I go.
This better be good.
Somebody touch my baguette. It's so stupid.
He's dying.
Oh, I gotta Photoshop that now. I gotta Photoshop it.
Austrian Grand Prix next weekend. Usually a good
Don't
track.
line
I
me up.
quite like it as a track. It's sort of a bowl where you can see the whole grid.
Bit of a meta track, I think. but
With about 7 turns going from turn 1 to turn 2.
7 actual turns. I'll try and say it's like 15 corners because there's a bend on a straight. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
But what are you fancying? Our predictions for the Austrian Grand Prix, Alex?
Oh, why have you? Oh, come on. Pole. Oh, nice straight line. Lewis Hamilton for pole. Nice one, Ollie. So Lewis Hamilton for pole. Hamilton for the win. Kimi Räikkönen second, Max Verstappen third.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay.
Go on then.
Ashley?
Okay, I think the thing is, Buxton. Oh, did the Austrian circuit could play to strengths this year? And it's like, well, it's 3 straights divided by 3 or 4 corners. Not really, no. So you're going to have, Mercedes. Well, Ferrari are quicker than Mercedes on the straights this year, but Mercedes are just running more downforce. So you're going to have. I don't really go for drivers because anything can happen. It'll be Mercedes, Ferrari, and then Kimi finger up.
No, come on, you've got to be more specific than that. You can't go no Mercedes.
Okay, yeah, we'll go Team LH, Vettel, and Kimi because you can't because the Renault engine system still run a 2017 ERS system.
True.
So Ferrari will just breeze past them on the straight. As good as Max and Daniel are, next year up to 80 odd horsepower at full deployment. So it's just a
Renault very outdated. All right.
And Ken, if you're not doing your Photoshop.
No. I tried, but I gave up. I'm gonna go Vettel for pole. Also Vettel to win.
nice.
Hamilton second and Ricciardo third.
Interesting
Nice.
too.
Yeah, because I found a loophole. Every time I don't predict Max, he performs well.
Yeah. The thing is, like, if Hamilton comes anything this week, then we've got the 3rd best car, and it's like, he said coming into this weekend that he had the 3rd best. It's just, unless he gets the win, he's not the late, which I suppose is understandable. But yeah, Vettel, Ferrari with its more efficient aero, let's say, this season, seems to be quite quick on the straights, and if Vettel doesn't bottle it, it will be a good fight between those two. Obviously not on track because they can't follow, but it'll be strategy wise and quality wise will be interesting. Yeah,
definitely.
we need a really good. You know, I'm fancying a decent wet race, wet quality.
That would be lovely.
It would be.
Just very
Ollie.
soaking wet, deep Grand Prix.
Wow.
A soaking wet, deep Grand Prix.
Yeah.
You heard
Well,
it
the thing
here
is-
first, ladies and gentlemen.
It rained in Paul Ricard. I think it was about an hour race. It absolutely
Yeah.
rained.
Yeah, it was in third
Rain
practice,
style
wasn't it? And then
rain.
it dried up for.
Yeah, into practice as well. But then after the race, you know, Ted was doing his with an umbrella because it was hammering down.
Oh wow.
Come on.
Right.
Come on, then, Ollie. What you feeling?
I'm gonna go Hamilton for pole, Hamilton to win, Vettel second, and Max P3 because it's essentially almost his home Grand Prix.
Yeah, and you know, a good Kimi weekend is rare. It's
Yes.
very likely to be typical
Once in
Kimi.
a blue
piece.
moon.
Yeah.
It is. Is that one?
Yeah.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah, but yeah, hopefully we have a good race. Hopefully we have some rain. F1 Fantasy League. So currently,
Of which I feel mugged off.
yeah, you do. We'll go. So Ted Pett F1 Racing Team is in first with 850 points. Burnett Racing is down to second place, 5 points behind with 845. I'm in P3 with 825.
I mean, how is this happening?
And then Alex, who was P4
Four.
going into the race, is now
I got
down to P7.
182 points, and I dropped to 7th.
I'm not sure how you did that,
This
Alex.
is bollocks.
No
Total
idea.
bollocks.
No idea.
Okay. Ken is 14th.
Yeah.
A good amount of points behind, and then well, my fingers got a little bit sore from the scrolling to
And mine is as well.
penetration.
Wow.
Yes.
Rickson, who is I think everyone would ask is the best guy on knowledge for F1. Everyone would agree with this. Is lower. He's the lowest in the entire standings, which means he's lower than someone that started the season with -4 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do we have?
If you look at his team, though, he's got. So he
Let's have a look.
he had. So he had Sainz who got 30 points.
He got Perez.
Perez who got -26, and he turboed Perez, so that made it worse. Ricciardo got 29 points. Hamilton got 59 points. Alonso got 4 points, and Force
And Force India is his constructor, who can get
Yes.
you so many points.
He
Got
just
4.
he needs to drop Alonso.
Yeah, I did that. I did for Leclerc, and that seemed to work quite well with me.
Yeah, I had Ocon, unfortunately, so I dropped points. I didn't.
He has half the points of the person leading this championship after what, like 3-4 races, 5 races.
5 races,
He
yeah.
has half of what the leader has.
Yep.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah,
so
as you
bad.
said, Alex, he is the base of knowledge for Formula One predictions.
Yes.
He's just.
As soon as I think of an F1 question, I know the answer. Every time with that film.
yeah.
It must just be an unlucky. I can't even say an unlucky few weeks. Shite anyway.
Oh dear me. Well, yeah. Well, continue good luck to everybody who is participating in the league. Still a long way to go in the F1 Grid Watchers Fantasy League, but I think we're going to finish it off here for today's podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to check us out on iTunes and Podomatic. Give us a lovely review there. That would be fantastic.
We're trying for Spotify.
We're still trying for Spotify. Apparently, we're not allowed on there because I don't know. I honestly
I don't know.
do not know. They just won't let us on. I think
They allow the guy that urinates on children, but not us.
that is really
I know.
really unfortunate.
Double standards, really, isn't it? Duke,
It
you know
is.
what you need to do.
Urinate on someone.
Not my words.
Yeah. Anyway, also check us out on YouTube, and don't forget to drop a like if you did enjoy. Let us know all your comments on the Grand Prix, and don't forget to check out Ashley, Causa, December, and myself on Twitter. It is down
We
below.
would say check out Rickson, but no.
No, he's not here. He gave up.
He's not here. No, he's
yeah.
giving up.
And also check out the Grid Watchers Podcast Twitter to keep up to date with everything going on in the world of F1. Thank you for listening once again, and we'll see you next week. No, we won't, because I will not be here, so Alex will have to conduct the podcast without me. Or maybe I'm in Thailand, so I'll see what I can do.
Oh, I'm in Thailand. Just float that one out there at the end of the podcast, thinking no one's listening. If you're listening to this, just throw hate.
I can't
Shoot,
wait
shoot.
to watch Lady Boys. Anyway,
Yeah, I was
that's the
gonna
end of the
say,
podcast,
give it up,
and
want
good
to get a
night.
wife.